Hey, I'm Leo,
And I'm Naylan.
and welcome to Language Cafe. Now, what is this? What are we doing here?
So, this is a podcast where we give a small introduction to a language and culture.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you a little bit of words and phrases and stuff like that. And it gets pretty interesting, I'd say.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yes, very fun. And what are we doing today? The first episode.
Today, we are talking about German.
German. That's cool because I think we both have a bit of a relationship with the language. I know you study German. You're in German class, a young scholar of German. You're going abroad this year,
Yeah.
correct? Yes.
This summer, I'm going to go to
That's
Germany.
so exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
For me, I love learning languages, and German was just one of them that I wanted to try out. And it kind of worked out with Nayland's help, and there's been some other great people who have tried to help me along with the language to get a little grasp of it. And right now, I'm doing okay. My end goal is to be able to speak, normally, maybe to study it, maybe in college or something, and to talk to a lot of relatives, as I have a lot of people in my family who live in Germany right now, which is really cool. And it's just a really exciting opportunity for me, right?
Yeah, and I think just learning a language in general is a great thing because you can have a lot of fun while doing it,
Yes.
and also it's a very useful skill.
It's life skill.
So,
Yeah, totally.
absolutely.
And what better way to introduce language than to talk about some of the most common words and phrases? Naylan, you have some of these, don't you?
Yeah, so most of these are just kind of small things and saying hello and goodbye and stuff like that. Doesn't go too deep.
Right.
But start off with, here's a real shocker. How would you think you say hello?
Oh, probably something like bonjour or something.
No,
Salut?
that's French.
That's
In German, it's hallo.
Hallo?
Spelled Hallo.
Okay.
Hallo.
So hello, Naylan.
And the opposite for that, there are two versions of this. There's the formal, and there's the informal.
Right.
And there's kind of a spectrum in between.
Okay.
It's a very small spectrum,
Okay.
though. So the formal is Auf Wiedersehen.
Is that how you say goodbye?
That's
Yeah?
goodbye. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So both of these examples I'm going to give are goodbye. So the formal, like we said, is Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
It's two words.
Okay.
And then the second phrase is Tschüss,
I love that so much.
which
It's so fun
is
to say.
it is. It's just a very
Tschüss.
yeah.
It's like ciao.
Yeah, it's like ciao, which I've actually heard from some friends I have in Germany. They use that all the time, just in their like normal friend
Tschüss or
group.
ciao?
Ciao.
Ciao. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a cultural
Fun
thing, I
European
guess.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I have good morning, good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and just the word for day.
Okay.
So, first up, Guten Morgen,
Guten Morgen.
which means good morning.
Good morning.
Guten
okay.
meaning good and Morgen meaning morning. Nachmittag, which means afternoon.
Whoa, that's a good name.
And so next up is good evening, which is Guten Abend. Guten Abend. Abend means evening.
Okay.
And then to say night, but you
Right.
only ever really say night when you're going to bed,
Okay.
is Guten Nacht.
Right. Okay. So maybe like when you're like saying like have a nice evening, is that when you'd say like guten Abend?
Yeah,
You would say,
Guten Abend.
Right. Okay.
Because it refers to basically, from like the normal time that you expect, from like 5 o'clock to 10:30 or something like
Right.
that. Basically, whenever you're not asleep.
Yeah.
And then just the normal word for day is just Tag. And you can say Guten Tag, good day, as a greeting,
Guten Tag.
or a goodbye, just like
Got
you
it.
would use it in English.
Right.
And so now, if you want to ask somebody how they're doing in terms of a greeting, don't.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not it's a very American thing to ask
Okay.
people. It just kind of haphazardly, oh, how are you doing? Not necessarily because they want to know how you're doing, but just as a greeting. Yeah.
So, I've never heard this. So in Germany, it's correct me if I'm wrong. So it's like you don't say, like how's it going as a greeting.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't.
use it as like I want to know how you are.
Yeah.
Is that when
so
it's used?
if you're going to ask somebody how they are, you should mean it because they will tell you
They will
exactly how they feel.
Right.
And how they're doing.
Yes. Okay. That's cool.
Which I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's us Americans are weird, so
Yeah, we kind of are. We kind of are.
and then
So how would you say it? Like, how would you say how are you?
Wie geht es dir?
Wie geht es dir?
Or for the abbreviated version, which is also considered informal,
Yeah.
it's Wie geht's?
Okay.
Um,
That's fun.
yeah, and it really kind of just depends what kind of company you're in.
Right.
For which one you use. You can. It really goes either way. But if you're, say, at a business meeting or something, and you're asking somebody how they're doing, you should use the formal, which is Wie geht es dir?
Okay. That's good advice if you're in that formal setting. That's always good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I have is the word for bad, because we've already discussed the word for good, and I feel
Right.
like it would be apt to also talk about the word
Right.
bad, which there's one word for bad, and it's schlecht.
Schlecht. Is that how it is?
Yeah, schlecht.
Schlecht.
Yeah, that's
Yeah?
pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when you're referring to something as bad, you say, "Oh, that's bad." So I had a bad meine Tag war schlecht. Now you don't have to know the other words,
Okay.
but what I said was my day was bad.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and then you could say you can use the same thing with gut,
Right.
which is good, and those two kind of go hand in
Yes.
hand.
That's important. One more question.
Yeah, of course.
Yes and no.
Ja und nein.
Good. All right.
So ja is yes, spelled J-A, and nein spelled N-E-I-N means no.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's a good thing to know. Yeah.
Ja,
That's
es
important.
ist.
Es ist gut. Es ist nicht sehr schlecht.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Leo just said is it is not very bad.
Yes. Maybe you wouldn't use that phrase, but I'm learning the ropes to this language, so there's that. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not perfect.
All right. Yeah.
All
Well.
right. So Leo, in term, I just gave you a small introduction, so now we're gonna go use that to discover a bit of culture, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll continue our little boatway, our little travel through Germany with some information about Germany's culture, right?
Yeah.
So you probably know a lot about this, as language and culture go hand in hand,
Oh,
right?
very much so.
I know a little bit about this. I've gone to Germany once. Since my family's in Germany, there's been I've learned a little bit, maybe not too much, but there's been a little bit
Got
of
a good grasp on it.
yes, a bit of a grasp on it. So Germany is roughly divided, right, into a couple different regions, kind of like the U.S. as states, and they each kind of have their own, cultural identities in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I think some things are shared, but also they have their own specific, identities, and they differ in some food, some customs, and they are actually seen by Germans differently,
I mean, it's kind of to be expected. It is-
Right.
It is, Europe after all,
Right.
and Germany's a very large region of
It
that,
is,
so
yes.
it would have crossed quite a few groups.
Right, and just like we do in the U.S., think about people from different places and different ways of life.
Oh yeah.
We have our different states with our own little food groups and our own little identities, our own ways of thinking. Right, so I think that's a concept that's shared. And so I'll give you an example of this from something that I know very well, not very well. A bit, right?
Moderately.
So in the southern region of Germany, there's this southern region. It's pretty big. It's called, this is pronunciation is probably not going to be great, but it's Baden-Württemberg. Was that good?
Yeah, Baden-Württemberg.
Württemberg.
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 Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
that's the name of this region. And essentially in this region resides the cultural and linguistic center known as Schwabia.
Yeah.
Is good Schwabia?
Yeah, Schwabian. Yeah.
So the Schwabian area is home to essentially its own dialect, right? Called
Yeah.
Schwabian. Now Schwabian is a lot like German, although it has some different pronunciations that people notice. When they go to places like Stuttgart,
Yeah.
when maybe you go to a city like Ulm, which is, I believe, in the Schwabia,
Yeah.
recognized
I think
area.
it is.
Yeah,
Because it's to the
right.
west, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it would be,
southern.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Southwest
of course,
specifically.
yeah. So they use a little bit of a different pronunciation. For example, you might hear a sh sound on the ending or some different parts of different words that are added like to the regular
Yeah.
s sound. So for example, one thing that I found on this article was when somebody says bus, right, which is bus, right? Bus.
Bus, yeah.
They maybe in Schwabia, a lot of people would say bush.
Hmm. Interesting.
Bush. That's kind of like the phonetic way of saying
Yeah.
bush. So there's a really interesting, accent or dialect that's used in this way. And I think that's really interesting because we kind of have accents here, and obviously we know that accents and dialects are something that are shared in so many different places, a lot of European countries, and now we know that it's in Germany too. So that's what I find interesting. Schwabia is just one example of the many different areas and cultural regions. Although Schwabia is not necessarily a geographic region, it's more considered a linguistic and cultural region, meaning that the people who live there kind of had this own area, maybe that would before.
They're considered a people,
Right.
from a region, but not necessarily like like a hard boundary.
Right. It's not like I'm going to Schwabia. You might probably
Yeah.
say I'm going to Baden-Württemberg.
As far as I know, they're still very much considered as German as any other German from
Right, yeah.
Berlin or something.
Right. So, if you probably go into, you'll see a lot of different ones like this. You'll see a lot of different examples of different regions. And also my family is Schwabian. A lot of them live down in the south. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so I found that kind of interesting because, it's a bit of a, real life example of it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of, when you see in writing and you kind of connect it to your own experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we touched on food earlier in the episode, but...
yes, we.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we did, and that got my brain
hungry for dinner. Now, if you want to go to Germany and you're in Germany's very large city of Berlin, very well-known
Yes.
city, you can stop and get some German food.
Great orchestra, great philharmonic.
Yeah,
the
well,
works. Yeah.
The music, and Berlin is known for some really interesting food. For example, a currywurst sausage, which is a German classic sausage, usually served with some ketchup, which is not necessarily the ketchup that we have in America. It's a very it's a very well known, very delicious. I'm guessing food that you're gonna use as a condiment for maybe a good sausage or something.
Mm-hmm.
Another good meal is Eisbein. Eisbein. E-I-S.
Eisbein.
Eisbein, and Eisbein is essentially pig knuckle, and essentially it's roasted.
Pigs have knuckles? I thought they had hooves.
I guess I guess I've seen different words for it. One of them I forget, but it kind of refers to that. I guess the knuckle area.
Yeah.
And it's usually, I think it's like slowly cooked, and a lot of times they'll serve it with some sauerkraut, and that's a delicious. I'm hearing delicious meal, and maybe if you want something a little more desserty, you can pick up a donut, and the Germans call it, and I'm maybe not going to pronounce this well, but the Pfannkuchen,
Pfannkuchen.
Pfannkuchen.
Yeah,
Yeah?
there you go. Yeah.
And so this is maybe a more of a dessert thing. It's a bit of a German donut. So yeah. But also, what I find interesting is that Germany has the second largest population of Turkish people, following, of course, Turkey.
Yeah, of course.
And so they have like a wide array of these Turkish foods. Like you can pick up a kebab and pita, a little bit of curry sauce on top. Delicious way to enjoy Berlin. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just also want to mention that if you want another good German dessert, go and find some strudel. Trust me, go find it. Or Black Forest cake. That's even
delicious.
That's so good as well.
All right.
Oh, I could go on about the food for a long time.
Oh yeah, me too. So Nayland, obviously we've talked about going to Berlin and trying the food culture there, but you have a little bit more about the travel experience in Germany. Why don't you touch on that for a little bit?
Yeah. So if you're going to travel, here's some things that you might want to try, it's specifically in Germany. This is stuff that's been recommended to me. This is some stuff that some of the stuff I'm going to try when I go there. And first off, take the train when you're traveling between towns and cities. It'll show you a lot of the countryside, and it is supposed to be gorgeous.
Right.
It is Europe, after all.
Right.
And also, it's a very different experience than taking a flight or driving. It's actually it's more economical than driving, but as far as I know, it's actually cheaper to fly. Don't take my word for that. That might have changed since the last time I heard that.
Right.
But I would prefer to take the train anyway because
beautiful.
You gotta go by the scenery, man.
Oh yeah, I think we saw a lot of that when we were going to. I think we went through car for a bit, but we also I think we took the train. And what I saw was just beautiful. I saw some rolling hills around the Alps area in the south.
Yeah.
And so it was beautiful.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with driving. It's just it's, I mean, if you want to go on the Autobahn, you want to go 180 miles an hour in the fast lanes in certain parts, whatever.
On the Autobahn.
Fun. Okay, we're going to get copyright strike.
It's a good song, though.
It is a good song.
Yes, Kraftwerk.
Yes.
A German band.
Yes, actually. You should listen to it.
Yes.
Kraftwerk. Look them up.
Yes.
So the next thing is for housing and cheap housing too. Stay in hostels. Now this might scare some people because it's not a hotel.
Right.
But no, it's cheap. It's good quality living too.
Yes.
For while you're staying there.
Get to socialize with a lot of different people.
And you get to meet people, too, which is always a fun thing to do.
Yes.
And when I go to Germany, and one of the cities I'm going to is Munich, we're going to be staying in some hostels. And also, if you want to get away from all the civilization stuff, I highly recommend you go hike or ski in the Alps.
Beautiful.
Because they are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Leo, you can attest. You can attest to that.
Oh yeah, totally. I think we went on a couple gray alpine hikes with our relatives up in the south.
Nice.
Beautiful area. Lots of beautiful cows and sheep. Wildlife roaming around, and a bunch of different. What was really funny is that they had these different little huts with beer and food, and some of would be bigger restaurants and some would be smaller. Like you could stop at a place, get like a beer if you're old enough, I think it's 18 the drinking age. Or something.
It's 16.
Oh,
in Germany,
really?
It's 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could you can maybe get a beer or get apple juice or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a very good traditional German drink or a soda that you would get. Maybe Apfelsaft,
I mean, Applesauce is really
apple
just
juice.
kind of apple juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure about like a traditional juice or something like that.
Yeah. Traditional juice.
But actually, speaking of beer,
Mm-hmm.
if you're of age,
Right.
and you're going to drink, go to a German beer hall because they're going to serve you the local beer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very German and traditional thing to go to these beer halls and have what's there in the city
Yes.
or the town or wherever you're staying. And actually, apparently, there's this one. I can't remember if it's an inn or more of a pub type of thing. But apparently, it's at the top of a mountain in the Alps, right on the Swiss border.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I want to go to at some point. Just hike all the way up
Oh
and all the
yeah.
way back down.
That's cool.
Um,
Yeah.
and then also for some nice cultural food,
Mm-hmm.
you should go to the bakeries
Oh yeah.
because German bread. I've had some very good German bread before,
Oh, yeah?
and you have got to try it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because it's like
Sounds
it's the
delicious.
it's the
Sounds
handmade
delicious.
stuff of your dreams. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Specifically, yeah. If you think the cake's good, the bread's better. And for a nice quick snack while you're out on the town or hiking or something, get a pretzel. In German, it's called Die Brezel.
Die Brezel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Genau.
and then something that Leo, you actually recommended to me was to tour the Bauhaus architecture.
Right. We're not sure if there's necessarily like one specific tour or if there's any tours at all, but Bauhaus architecture is a really interesting, style of architecture, that originated, I believe, in Germany. And it's always a great idea just to, check, around the area and see what kind of beautiful architecture and design you can see around there. This
Yeah.
very maybe minimalistic, also factory based and really purposeful, beautiful architecture. It's always a great thing to see. Maybe in some bigger cities.
Yeah.
Wherever you go in Germany, I'm sure you'll find any type of beautiful architecture. Cathedrals like the believe it's called the Ulmer Minstrel, which is a cathedral in Ulm, the southern city, also in Schwabia, as we touched on.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it might be one of the largest. I think
Yeah.
Köln, or
Well, there's
as
one in
people say,
Munich.
Cologne might have a very. I think it might have the tallest one, but I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure.
I mean, there's one very big one that's like on some list as like the second largest or something.
Yeah.
In Munich or München, and then, yeah. So Ulm has one, and then, as us Americans say, Cologne. Also has
Köln.
one. Köln. Is it Köln?
I
Köln.
believe so. Like K-O with the umlaut LN.
Oh, Köln. Oh, okay.
Köln.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's
Köln,
cool.
Yeah.
Köln.
And yeah, speaking of Köln, which is kind of an interesting
Right.
pronunciation, Leo, let's hear some very interesting words.
Yes. So one thing that I was really excited about when we decided to do the German episode is to talk about these words. We touched on how German uses a lot of compound words, combining different words into longer ones or really interesting ones. And I thought that
Yeah.
it would be cool to touch on some really interesting ones. Now, there is one very long German word. It's not the longest word. It was previously the longest German word, but I think it got like word of the year or something in Germany or something, which is interesting. And I'm not gonna pronounce it all because it's very, very long. But I'm gonna pronounce the beginning, and you can obviously maybe correct me for some bits.
Okay.
Rinderkennzeichnung, Nungs, und Rindfleisch
Fleisch.
Shite. Ja,
Und Rindfleischetikettierung, Überwachung, Saufgaben, Übertragung, Gesetz.
That was our attempts, very much attempts to say
Yes, attempt.
a very long German word, which means cattle marking and beef labeling, supervision's duty delegation law. This was a law introduced in Germany with this name, but the law was repealed later. So
It was just because of the name.
maybe it was. But I find it so funny that there's just like this word for cattle marking and beef labeling supervision duties delegation law. It's it's really funny. Yeah. So if you ever want to describe that to a German friend, you can always remember that word. Very
Yeah.
important word to learn
I
in
think
German.
I tried to get one of my friends to say it in Germany, and they did it, but they were very hesitant to read it out because it was so big.
Oh wow. Yes, I would be hesitant too. Now, there's also in German, there's also some very specific words. So, in English, we have certain ways of describing things, and we have some certain words that very much describe, different feelings, different emotions in a very, realistic ways. We have different ways of describing, different very specific concepts. But in Germany, these words are very common. For example, if you are a listener to this podcast for a very specific reason, if you love languages, you love learning languages, listening to languages, and if you have that skill of knowing a language and being able to understand it enough, speaking it all the time, you can say Sprachgefühl. Sprachgefühl?
Sprachgefühl.
Sprachgefühl. Sprachgefühl.
Sprachgefühl.
Gefühl.
Gefühl, yeah.
This word, it essentially just means language feeling, right? A very good way to describe it. How your capability of learning and understanding a language, right? So there's one word, Sprachgefühl, right? Now another one is. Okay, this is a big one. Die Verschlimmbesserung.
Verschlimmbesserung.
There it is. Thank you, Dylan. This is kind of like saying,
Of course.
like kind of a doozy, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, it means when something ends up worse than it started. My day was a doozy. Maybe you could say something. Mein Tag war. I don't know. You could take it over.
Verschlimmbesserung.
Yes,
Even
something like
I'm having
that.
trouble with it.
So yeah, that's a really interesting, very specific word. And the last one that I have is I like this. I love that this exists. If you want to say yes and no, just like us Americans say it when we're a little bit, trying to describe something, maybe like
Yes, but actually no.
Naylan, I could be like, Naylan, how was your day? You could be like,
Yeah, it was okay, but also not.
so yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Maybe it was a doozy. Maybe it was that word that I just said that we just described there. But if you want to say yes and no in German, you could also say jein. It's a combination between ja and nein. Like we reviewed earlier, we could say yes and no. Jein. Jein. Oh, that's how you say yes and no in German. That's very cool. Very funny. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see.
Where?
Seems as if our little coffee break, our little cafe time.
Yes,
is,
we're all done with our coffee, and now we have to go get on with our day.
Of course. Yes.
So, in today's episode, we discussed German,
oh yeah.
some small vocabulary,
Fun.
and the culture.
Fun.
Very fun. This was the pilot episode for Language Cafe.
Yes.
It would be absolutely fantastic if we could get listener feedback in the YouTube comments in order to improve our production. A special thanks to A Walk in the Woods. Go check them out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Tschüss.
Tschüss.